Welcome to my channel. Today is Monday and here I am, once again with my eternal stance of being of the opposing side as any good journalist who always stands on the other shore. I like to be in that contrary trance because from there I can see the blunders of the grand political moguls much more clearly and blame me. I have plenty of material for you today, so brace yourselves and hold on thin because this story will be more Britain's the cup of tea and 5 o'clock. Let me tell you right away that I feel us mischievous as a foss in a hell rose. Blimey, here we go. Everything started brewing on a cloudy day in Washington. I got up on the wrong foot and thought what a splendid day to ruffle feathers. So I donned my trench coat, worn by rain, and set out to snoop around the corridors of powers. I had not spent even 5 minutes on the main avenue before hearing the big news: Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, had landed with an entourage that looked like a flock of paparazzi, and Trump was waiting for him, wearing that expression missing curiosity and condescension. The atmosphere felt tense from the first moment. I called tasty the drama cricket. This smelled like a monumental mess. I swear by the Lake Queen and all her corgis, the scene at the White House was worthy of a traveling circus. On one side, Zelensky seeking security or guarantees, or at least a shred of courtesy from the US administration. On the other side, Trump, radiating the message that he would not lift a finger if there was no clear intention to send them famous mineral deals. The show started without preamble. The moment they stepped into the Oval Office, the air turned into a simmering breath of fiery remarks and diplomatic snarls. I marched east as that impertinent journalist who always sticks his nose where he is not wanted blimey. I thought this is going to be entertainment, and it was. The meal debate morphed into a schoolful of bars. In a matter of seconds, Trump began launching things about the ingratitude of Senate nations and the need for an immediate agreement. Zelensky planted his feet and declared that without security guarantees any commercial treaty would be useless. The deputies and secretaries scurried about like headless chickens. The air crackled with a mixture of shock and pent-up anger. My opposing bay bulged as I watched the tension. Zelensky insisted that his army had held on against all odds, and that he could not afford a ceasefire without proof that Russia would not stomp on his lands again, or his lands again. Trump on his side responded with a critic: you either make a deal or we're out, and if we are, you will fight it all. I was shivering with that bizarre pleasure that emerges when each side pulls at its end of the rope. Blimey, I thought these two are not agreeing on anything, not even of the time for tea. Suddenly, the tension spiked to a level no one expected. Vice President Vance reacted like a spring when Zelensky tried to explain the horrors his people had endured. She answered with a tirade that sounded like a headed sermon as he restored something along the line of you have not stepped into the trenches with my foes. It was an exchange of blunt statement hard to swallow, and those of us present were left speechless. The climate turned unbreathable. This looked like a spy movie scene where both protagonists aim guns at each other of the table, except there were no guns, just microphones and cameras recording every gesture. The poor Ukrainian ambassador looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. A few Democratic senators present branded the scene an absurdity in the eyes of the war. Some Republicans applauded Trump's approach to leaving Zelensky high and dry in her refusal to sing. Meanwhile, Zelensky seemed willing to enter an economic arrangement, provided it include a future military commitment, yet Trump refused to listen. Crikey, I muttered, this chap will not vote even against his own shadow. After the little row, worthy of a tabloid, I crossed paths in the corridor with an adviser who whispered that Trump was preparing to go to Mar-a-Lago and had no intention of granting more time to Zelensky unless he accepted an immediate ceasefire. The tension was tangled like a ball of threads, impossible to unravel. Some whispered that Putin was lowering his head off from his golden Kremlin. Others murmured that the European Union watched in horror and the open rupture between supposed allies. I returned to my office with my head brimming with ideas. I thought this is one of those historic moments when the opposition journalist must unleash all his beating with blame. What a spectacle! Now I had to get ready for the next act. The show was not over yet, and my instinct told me everything could scale even more, and so it did. The next day, I went back to the White House with my notepad and my knack for irritating people. I found out Zelensky had graded an interview reiterating that he would never surrender and would not apologize to Trump because he believed his stance has been transparent. He said he saw no disrespect on his part, louding quietly. I thought this is quite the way to Tenet the road made. The media blasted with headlines and stringing and Zelensky fires back and Trump Brexit style. I told myself these invokers. President Trump posted a statement online complaining about the lack of tact from the Ukraine leaders. Meanwhile, a number of Republican senators came down hard on Zelensky, urging him to swallow his pride and grasp that without American support, his country